of creatives, and you're not from the United States originally. Tell me a little bit about your early life.
Sure. So yeah, so I grew up in Brazil, and on my father's side of the family, my father is a sculptor and a painter, and he always was that one that made me become very sensitive to things and art in general. So I grew up really having that freedom to create, and that was amazing. On my mother's side of the family, we also have my grandfather used to draw a lot, so we have drawings from him. So I feel like it's something that I got inspired by, just having that in our blood, you know. Growing up in Brazil, I finished high school, started my first year of college in architecture, and then I got married and
Okay.
moved to the US.
Okay. And so when you came to the U.S., you continued your education in the creative field. You went to school as in art history and part time. Is that correct?
Yes, so moving here, it took me about 6 months to learn the language, like the basic stuff, to
Okay.
be able to survive. And I started taking part-time classes at Purdue University. We were in Indiana, so I remember taking a couple of interior design classes. Then we moved to Syracuse, and in Syracuse, I started taking classes in the art history program and enrolled in the undergraduate program there.
About 10 years before you started having children, you were working a full-time job in a design department and going to school. And you said to me that you didn't even know what you were going to do when you grew up. You were still working on that. In the early 2000s, you started a family. So tell me a little bit about that part of your story.
Yeah, so we were still living in Syracuse, moved back to Brazil, and then I had my son in 2003. We were traveling and moving everywhere with my husband's job. And then I started like sub teaching at some schools. I wasn't sure if that was going to be the path, but decided to, you know, with the moving back and forth to places, I stayed home. And
Okay.
I was very patient, but then I didn't know what I was good for anymore. You know, I had no skills, and it was
You
a very
said to me,
difficult time.
you said to me in our call that for yourself, you had no dreams, you had no goals, and you never thought about it. And that resonated with me, and I think it resonates with so many people that you get so caught up in serving others, which service is a good thing,
Mhm.
but you get so caught up in that you lose yourself.
Yes, and that
And
really happened. And I don't want to look back as a sad thing because it was a choice that I made, but I didn't realize how much I was just not doing anything for myself, or really thinking about, okay, how about when these kids are out of the house? You know, who am I? And luckily, I found something that really sparked something in me. And it was a mentor. She became my mentor, my photography mentor, when I listened to something about her saying, you're not good enough for whom, right? So are you good enough? And it made me cry. And I'm like, am I good enough for anything? And the kids have their own lives, you know, and things are happening around you. And it felt like I was just waiting to do something for someone, but I wasn't doing much for myself. So
right.
that really made me wake up.
Is this the mentor you met in 2016?
Yes. So I saw a
Okay.
video. She's a photographer, and I met her in 2016. And from that point on, I started just following her like there was nobody else in the world. You know, she just spoke directly to me, and
Right.
it really changed my path.
In 2014, you said you first pulled out that camera and started letting those creative juices flow again, and taking just landscape photography and getting familiar with that camera. And then you met this woman and started following her. And now here you are, 4 years later, well, almost 5 years later, with your photography business. Tell me about what you now offer with your photography business.
So from the beginning, my whole idea was to create a portrait business that would photograph mostly women. And I really had a desire to empower them and to help them see all the potential and be accepting of themselves. And because I was going through the same thing. So started marketing as a portrait business. I invited friends to photograph them. So I was able to create a portfolio. So I had something to show. And from the beginning, like that summer of 2016, I photographed a family, like a friend of mine with her mom and her daughter. And I remember her saying, you know, you have no idea how my mom changed her behavior after she's been photographed, you know, how it changed her life, where now she dresses up and she goes out for coffee with her friends and she wears makeup, and even her body language is different. So at that point, I knew that what I was doing had meaning, and it was a very special thing. And from that point on, I just, you know, it was my passion and I wanted to do it all the time. And I had more and more families and more friends, and then clients start coming.
That's wonderful. So you actually did my headshots a couple of years ago.
We did, yes.
Uh, yes, and that was definitely a very fun experience. Wonderful. So you don't just do women's headshots. Tell me the other services that you are now offering.
Sure. So then I was always involved in a lot of the networking groups and meeting a lot of business owners, and then expanded into a personal branding part of my business, where you can have from a headshot just to update your social media platform to really creating content for the marketing. So I really enjoy doing that because I meet with local business owners. We go through all of their needs, who their clients are. It's really that marketing background where we are creating something visual, but that really reflects who they are and what their brand is. I love doing that part of the business. But the interesting thing is I can photograph men or women. And usually the male, like with the guys, I can get more creative because they're not so critical of themselves. You know, they have more confidence than we women do. But with the girls, every time they come for personal branding session, I'm able to kind of get some portraits of them. And it just, you know, it kind of wraps in a very nice way. And they walk out of there more confident and ready to show up, and either in their personal lives or in their business life. So it kind of becomes a combination of all of it, and I can still be creative with them.
You've already mentioned some things, but tell me, what is it about your photography and what you offer that is unique than what someone's going to get somewhere else from getting portraits or branding?
I want the client to have an experience, and it's not just getting an image. You know, it's that from the time we first meet and we're looking like, what is this photo shoot going to look like? What are you going to wear? I have two incredible makeup artists. We create everything together. So as the client comes in, they already know what they look like. You know, we've already talked about what they do. So the girls are ready. They're already set to do what we need to do. What kind of hairstyle? So I really feel like that becomes even bigger than the final result. But then if you're doing your branding, you have images to show everyone, you know, to really market yourself and show up in a very confident way. And if you're getting portraits, you have like what's behind me. It's like you have legacy things, you know, it's images that are going to last you forever, and that your kids are going to have. And I really see the value in that. So that's what I want to give them. I want to give them incredible products that they can take with them, but also an experience that they won't forget, that is really going to change how they see themselves.
I love what you say on your website. It says, this is your time to exist in photograph. That sounds to me like exactly that experience you're trying to give people. And when they look at their photographs, they're going to remember that experience. You have a studio in
Yes.
Tyrone, is that correct?
Yeah, so my studio, I for 3 years I had a studio out of my house, but opened a studio back in May, like the first week of May. I was supposed to open in March, but we all know why that didn't happen.
Right.
But by
Yeah,
May 1st,
exactly.
I had my first client there. It is really, I want that place to be a place when people walk in, they really feel safe and they feel like we are going to take care of them, you know, pamper them, and
Right.
really create something amazing for the clients. So the studio is a big part
Yeah.
of it. I had that dream from the beginning. I'm like, I want a space that's really going to give my clients that experience, or a space where they don't want to leave, and I think that's
Right.
what it feels like.
And you are able, your studio is open now. So you are able to hold
Yes.
sessions safely.
Yes, the studio
And
is
that's wonderful.
open. I'm following all of the safety guidelines with COVID. I wear a shield the whole time. We have masks when the client walks in. The client can't wear a mask, but makeup artist is protected. I'm protected. We make sure that I have at least 24 hours in between clients, so we have time to clean everything and disinfect, and just making sure I took some stuff out of the way so it's easier. So yes.
We also talked about your perspective on community. You're on a show called Community Heartbeat. And you told me that you view your work as an exchange. You want to be able to support the community, and how can this community support you? Tell me a little bit about your work in the community, some of the projects you've done.
Sure. So I'm very lucky that I'm sociable, so I get to meet people, and people, usually we can collaborate in so many ways. I want to be able to be resourceful to my clients and other businesses. So I'm never looking to just get what I need for myself. I'm always offering more, and that comes naturally. But also, every person that walks into my life, I'm thinking of a way that I can help them through my craft, through what I can do well. So at least once a month, I photograph someone that I invite them to come to the studio, or some project something that's going on, and they're like, I want to tell the story, and there's someone that we need to be photographed. I'm like, yeah, I would love to do that. So I get excited about that stuff. And also, one of my projects that is a good example of being part of this is a book that I created with 8 other photographers around the world.
Mm-hmm.
And we photographed local women who were survivors of domestic violence. So that project took me about 18 months to do. I photographed women in Fayette County that were survivors, and they told their stories. We photographed them, and now we have this book and this movement to really help women overcome, their situation, but to really also empower other women to see that it is possible to get out of some situations and to have a life after that. Because I think we get very discouraged if you go through something in your life and then you don't see yourself on the other side. And their stories really prove
That
that
is
it
so
is
true.
possible. Yes.
Yes, that is so true. And the name of that book is hashtag She Wins.
Yes.
Is that
Hashtag
correct?
she
Yep.
wins.
So you had told me that the hardest part of running the business was really that it wasn't easy, but that it ended up making you stronger in the end, and really that you found mentors and support along the way. Tell me a little bit about that part
Sure.
of running your business. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so I think when I started, when you start a business, you're doing everything by yourself, and it is overwhelming to think, how am I going to market myself? And there's so much that we didn't learn growing up, which is social media, and that becomes something really big for business owners. But also when you have a family, and that balance that some people talk about, yeah, you need to find balance. I really don't believe that there's balance. I think you can prioritize what each day looks like, and that looks like balance to me. So, and I think we talked about this, like one day my kids are going to eat really healthy and my business is going to suffer a little bit. But then the
Yeah.
next, I'm contacting all my clients, but the kids are grabbing snacks all day. So it was hard, and it's still hard. And as moms, we feel a little guilty sometimes, but I look now and I think my
Mm-hmm.
kids are proud of me from what they watch me do this. And they are
Yes.
proud of any accomplishment that I do. They're like, yeah, mom, you go, mom, and it's good to watch that, because we tend to always feel a little selfish, when we're doing something for
Right.
ourselves. But I think in the end,